The Empire had ruled the stars for 200 years. They had conquered 43 star systems. They had defeated every enemy. They had never lost a single battle. The reason was simple. They had the Resonance Shield. The Resonance Shield was the greatest weapon in the galaxy. It was not a gun or a bomb. It was a wall of pure energy. When enemies fired missiles at ships, the shields ate them. When enemies used lasers, the shields laughed. When enemies tried nuclear weapons, the shields did not even shake. Nothing could break through. Nothing had ever broken through. They were proud creatures. They stood 8 feet tall with hard shells like insects. They had 4 arms and 2 legs. Their eyes were black and cold like deep space. They believed they were the greatest species in the galaxy, and for 200 years no one had proven them wrong. When humanity first reached the stars, they did not care. Humans were small. Humans were weak. Humans had simple ships and basic weapons. They looked at humanity the way a giant looks at an ant. They were not worried at all. The Galactic Assembly was where all the star nations met to talk. It was a massive space station floating between galaxies. Representatives from 100 species gathered there to make deals and sign treaties. When humanity joined the assembly, they decided to send a message. Ambassador was the voice of the Empire. He was old and clever. His shell was dark purple, a sign of high rank. His mandibles clicked when he talked, making a sound like stones hitting together. Did not like humans. He thought they were too confident for such a young species. On the day of humanity's welcome ceremony, prepared a demonstration. He set up a platform in the center of the assembly hall. On the platform sat a single shield generator. The blue energy wall hummed softly, beautiful and deadly. "Friends," announced to the gathered species, "today we welcome humanity to our assembly, but I think our new friends should understand how the galaxy works. Let me show them." He invited representatives from every species to attack the shield. They fired their famous plasma cannons. The energy splashed against the blue wall and vanished. They launched their armor-piercing missiles. They exploded harmlessly. A species of living rock threw themselves at the shield. They bounced off like pebbles. His mandibles clicked with pleasure. "You see, for 200 years no weapon has broken our shields. No species has defeated us in battle. This is the truth of the galaxy." He turned to the human delegation. His black eyes showed no respect. "Your species is young. Your technology is primitive. Perhaps in 1,000 years you will understand true power. Until then, I suggest you stay quiet and learn." The human delegates stood in silence. Some of them looked angry, some looked worried, but one man showed no emotion at all. Captain Park of the United Earth Defense Force stood at the back of the group. He was 34 years old. He was not tall or muscular. He had a lean body and a calm face. His eyes were dark brown and very still, like deep water. He watched the shield demonstration without speaking. Next to him stood Lieutenant. She was 29, with short black hair and sharp eyes. She was second in command and his closest friend. She had known him for 10 years, and she still did not fully understand him. "Don't respond to their insults," whispered. "That's what they want." Nodded slowly. His eyes never left the shield. "I'm not angry," he said quietly. "I'm thinking." "Thinking about what?" "About how it works." Frowned. She knew that tone. Was not just watching. He was studying, calculating, planning. She had seen him do this before, right before he did something impossible. What did not know, what almost no one knew, was that was not an ordinary soldier. He was part of Project Threshold. Project Threshold had started 30 years ago in a secret base deep under the mountains of Korea. The goal was simple but crazy. Scientists wanted to find the limits of human potential, not through machines or genetic changes, through the power of the human body and mind alone. They studied ancient texts from China, India, Korea, and Japan. They found stories of monks who could break stones with their fingers, warriors who could sense attacks before they came, masters who could stop a man's heart with a single touch. Most people thought these stories were myths. Project Threshold proved they were not. The scientists discovered that the human body creates electricity. Every nerve, every muscle, every heartbeat produces tiny electrical signals. Most humans cannot control this energy. But with the right training, with decades of practice, some humans could learn to focus it, to shape it, to use it as a weapon. Had entered the program at age 12. For 22 years, he had trained. He had meditated for hours every day. He had learned to feel the electricity in his own body. He had learned to sense energy fields around him. He had learned to match his body's frequency to external forces. And he had learned to kill with a touch. The technique was called dim in old Chinese texts, the death touch. It was not magic. It was science. Every living creature runs on electrical signals. The heart beats because of electricity. The brain thinks because of electricity. If someone could disrupt those signals at exactly the right point, the body would simply stop. Could do this. He could feel a person's life energy and shut it down with his palm. He had never used this power on an innocent person. He hoped he would never have to use it at all. But he had trained for 22 years to be ready if humanity ever faced a threat it could not defeat with normal weapons. Now, watching the shield shimmer, understood something important. The shield worked by detecting force and pushing back. The harder you hit it, the stronger it became. That was why missiles and lasers failed. They gave the shield exactly what it wanted. But what if someone did not hit the shield? What if someone moved slowly, gently, matching the shield's own frequency? What if someone could slip through like water through cloth? Did not smile. He did not show any emotion, but inside his mind a plan was already forming. Ambassador finished his speech with more insults about humanity's weakness. The other delegates clicked their mandibles in laughter. The human delegation left the assembly hall in angry silence. But was not angry, he was patient. He knew that pride always came before a fall. They believed their shields made them gods. They believed nothing could touch them. They were wrong. Somewhere in the galaxy, there would come a moment when they pushed too far, when their arrogance led them to threaten something humanity could not ignore. When that moment came, would be ready. He would walk through their unbreakable wall, and he would show them what humans could really do. As the delegation's ship left the assembly station, looked at, he was staring out the window at the stars. His face was calm, but she could see something burning behind his eyes. "You're planning something," she said. "Always," he replied. "Does it involve those shields?" Turned to look at her. For a moment, she saw something ancient in his eyes, something that had been passed down through generations of warriors, monks, and masters, something that technology could never replace. "Those shields are not unbreakable," he said simply. "Nothing is. They just haven't met the right person yet." Shivered, she had known for 10 years. She had seen him do incredible things, but sometimes he still scared her. Not because he was dangerous, because she was starting to believe he could actually do it. 3 months passed after the assembly meeting. The Cold War between humans and grew colder. Trade ships were stopped. Diplomats were sent home. Angry words flew back and forth across space. Everyone knew that war was coming. They just did not know when. The answer came on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. 7 was a small planet at the edge of human space. It was not beautiful. The sky was always gray. The ground was mostly rock and dust, but under that rock lay something precious. 7 had the largest deposit of titanium in the known galaxy. Humanity needed that metal to build ships. Without 7, the human fleet would stop growing. They knew this. That was why they came. 50 warships dropped out of hyperspace around 7. They formed a perfect ring around the planet. Nothing could get in. Nothing could get out. They did not fire a single shot. They did not need to. They simply waited. Commander led the fleet. He was a massive creature even by standards. His shell was black as night. His 4 arms were thick with muscle. He had fought in 30 battles and won them all. He was cruel, but he was also smart. He knew that sometimes the best way to win was not to fight at all. Send a message to the humans, ordered. Tell them they have 2 choices: surrender the planet and leave peacefully, or stay and starve. The message reached Earth in hours. The response was immediate. Humanity would not surrender. 7 was their planet. They would fight for it. But fighting was not easy. The human fleet sent ships to break the blockade. They came with their best weapons: plasma cannons, nuclear missiles. They hit the shields with everything they had. Nothing worked. The shields absorbed every attack. The ships did not even move. They just sat there, glowing blue, waiting. After 3 days of failed attacks, the human fleet pulled back. They had used half their ammunition. They had not scratched a single enemy ship. Admiral called an emergency meeting on the flagship. She was 50 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. She had served humanity for 30 years. She had never faced a problem like this. "Status report," she said. The officers around the table looked grim. Captain No, head of weapons research, spoke first. "We've tried everything, Admiral: concentrated plasma bursts, antimatter torpedoes. We even tried kinetic bombardment at near light speed. The shields absorb it all. The faster and harder we hit, the stronger they become." "What about hacking their systems?" Lieutenant Commander Shin shook her head. "Their computers use a completely different architecture. We can't even read their code, let alone break it." Rubbed her forehead. "What about the people on 7? How long can they hold out?" 6 weeks, said Major O, the logistics officer. "Maybe 7 if they ration carefully. After that, they start dying." Silence fell over the room. 200,000 people lived on 7. Men, women, children, miners, engineers, teachers. In 6 weeks, they would begin to starve. In 8 weeks, they would be dead. "There must be something we can do," said. No one answered. What could they say? The shields were unbreakable. Everyone knew it. 200 years of galactic history proved it. No species had ever found a way through. Then a quiet voice spoke from the corner of the room. "Admiral, I have an idea." Everyone turned to look. Captain Park stood by the wall. He had been so quiet that most people had forgotten he was there. His face was calm. His eyes were steady. "Captain Park," said, "you're the Special Operations Advisor. What's your idea?" Stepped forward. "The shields work by detecting incoming force and creating an opposite reaction. That's why our weapons fail. We're giving them exactly what they expect." "We know this," Captain No said impatiently. "What's your point?" "My point is that the shields are designed to stop attacks. Fast, hard, violent attacks. But what if something approached slowly? What if something matched the shield's own energy frequency instead of fighting against it?" The room went silent. Lieutenant, sitting near, felt her heart start to beat faster. She knew where this was going. "What are you suggesting?" Admiral asked. "A ground insertion," said. "1 person, no weapons, no armor, just me." Captain No laughed. "1 man against 30,000 troops, that's suicide." "It's not suicide if I can get through their shields." "That's impossible. No one can walk through a shield." Looked at No with his calm, still eyes. "I can." The room erupted in arguments. Officers shouted that it was crazy, that it was a waste of a good soldier, that had lost his mind. But Admiral raised her hand for silence. "Captain Park," she said slowly, "are you telling me you can pass through shields, shields that have stopped every weapon in the galaxy for 200 years?" "Yes, Admiral." "How?" Paused. This was the hard part. Project Threshold was classified beyond top secret. Most people in the room did not have clearance to know it existed. But 200,000 lives were at stake. Some secrets had to be shared. "There's a program called Project Threshold," said. "It's been running for 30 years. The goal was to push human potential to its absolute limit, not with machines or genetic modification, with training, ancient techniques refined by modern science. What kind of techniques? Asked. Bioelectric manipulation. The human body creates electrical signals. With the right training, a person can learn to control those signals, to sense energy fields, to match frequencies, to pass through barriers that should be solid. The room was silent. Some officers looked confused, some looked skeptical, some looked scared. That sounds like magic, Captain No said. It's not magic, it's physics and biology and 22 years of training. His voice was quiet but firm. I know it sounds impossible, but I've done it before, not with shields specifically, but with similar energy barriers. I believe I can do it again. Admiral studied him for a long moment. She had read his file, the parts she was allowed to read anyway. She knew he was not ordinary. She had heard whispers about Project Threshold for years. Now those whispers were standing in front of her, offering to save 200,000 lives. Even if you get through the shields, she said, what then? You'll be alone against an army. How will you fight 30,000 soldiers? His expression did not change. I won't need to fight all of them, just the commanders. Cut off the head and the body dies. If I can reach their command center and take out the leadership, the rest will fall apart. And how will you take out the commanders? With your bare hands. Yes, Admiral, with my bare hands. Another silence, longer this time, heavier. Lieutenant stood up. Admiral, I've served with Captain Park for 10 years. I've seen him do things that should be impossible. If he says he can do this, I believe him. Looked around the room. She saw fear in many eyes, doubt in others, but she also saw something else. Hope, desperate, fragile hope. 200,000 people were going to die if they did nothing. The fleet could not break the blockade. Diplomacy had failed. There was only one option left. Captain Park, the Admiral said finally, if you're wrong, you'll die alone on an enemy planet. I know. And if you're right. Allowed himself a small smile, the first emotion he had shown all day. If I'm right, Admiral, they will learn something important. They'll learn that humans are not as weak as they think. They'll learn that our weapons are not our greatest strength. And they'll learn that some walls, no matter how strong, can be broken. Nodded slowly, her decision was made. Prepare a drop pod. You launch in 6 hours. Saluted, thank you, Admiral. As he left the room, caught up with him in the corridor. Her face was pale. You're really going to do this, she said, alone. Someone has to. What if you fail? Stopped walking, he turned to face her. For a moment his calm mask slipped and she saw something underneath. Not fear, something deeper, something sadder. Then write something nice for my memorial, he said. Something about how I tried. He walked away before she could respond. 6 hours later, a single drop pod fell towards 7. Inside sat one man with no weapons. Below waited 30,000 enemies with unbreakable shields. The impossible mission had begun. The drop pod screamed through the atmosphere of 7 like a falling star. Fire wrapped around its metal shell. The heat was terrible. Inside, Park sat perfectly still. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow and deep. His heartbeat only 40 times per minute. He was not afraid. Fear was something he had learned to control long ago. In Project Threshold, fear was the first enemy they taught you to defeat. You could not control your body if your mind was full of panic. You could not sense energy if your thoughts were scattered. Peace was the foundation of power. The pod hit the ground hard. The impact would have killed a normal person, but had prepared his body. His muscles absorbed the shock. His organs stayed in place. He opened his eyes, took one breath, and kicked open the door. The air of 7 was cold and thin. The sky was gray with dust. Around him stretched an endless field of rocks and craters. 3 kilometers to the east, he could see the command center. It was a massive black building that looked like a claw reaching toward the sky. That was his target. Started walking. He did not run. Running would waste energy. Running would attract attention. He moved at a steady pace, his footsteps silent on the rocky ground. His senses stretched outward, feeling the world around him. This was the first gift of Project Threshold. Awareness. After 22 years of training, could feel things that normal humans could not. He could sense the heat of living bodies from 100 meters away. He could feel the vibration of footsteps through the ground. He could detect energy fields like a shark detecting electricity in water. Right now he felt the coming, lots of them. They appeared over the hills like a wave of black shells, 50 soldiers at first, then 100, then 200. They surrounded him in a wide circle, their personal shields glowing blue in the gray light. Their plasma rifles were aimed at his chest. Stopped walking. He stood with his hands at his sides, relaxed and calm. He studied the shields carefully. They were beautiful in a way. The energy rippled like water, constantly moving, constantly adjusting. Each shield was connected to a generator on the soldier's back. The generator read incoming attacks and created the perfect defense. Perfect against attacks. Not perfect against harmony. An officer pushed through the circle. He was larger than the others, with gold marks on his shell. His name was a field captain with 200 kills to his name. Human said, his voice was harsh and clicking. You are either very brave or very stupid, perhaps both. Did not respond. He was studying shield, feeling its frequency. Every energy field had a rhythm, like a heartbeat. If he could match that rhythm, he could become part of the shield instead of its enemy. Did you come to surrender? Asked. If so, kneel and maybe we will kill you quickly. I came to walk, said quietly. Mandibles clicked in confusion. Walk, walk where? Through you, through your shields, to your command center. For a moment there was silence, then started laughing. The sound was ugly, like rocks grinding together. The other soldiers joined in, 200 laughing at the tiny human with no weapons. Through our shields, said. Nothing goes through our shields, nothing, not missiles, not lasers, not bombs. You think you can walk through with your soft human body? Yes. Stopped laughing. Something in his voice bothered him. The human was not scared. He was not joking. He was completely serious. Kill him, ordered. 50 rifles fired at once. Plasma bolts flew toward in a storm of blue light. Any normal person would have been burned to ash in an instant. Was not normal. He moved, not fast but flowing. His body turned and shifted like smoke in wind. The plasma bolts passed around him, missing by centimeters. He did not dodge them in the traditional sense. He felt their energy coming and simply was not in their path. This was the second gift of Project Threshold. Harmony. When you could sense energy, you could dance with it instead of fighting it. You could become like water, always flowing to the empty space. They stopped firing. They stared in confusion. How had they missed? They had fired 50 shots at point-blank range. Every shot should have hit. Walked toward the nearest soldier. Fire, screamed, keep firing. More plasma bolts, more misses, moved through the storm like a ghost. His body turned and twisted in ways that seemed impossible. Each movement was small, precise, perfect. The bolts flew past his head, his arms, his legs. None touched him. He reached the first shield. The soldier inside was young, could tell. His shots were panicked, wild. His shield was flickering with fear. Felt almost sorry for him. Almost. Raised his hand. He did not make a fist. He did not prepare to strike. He simply extended his palm toward the blue energy wall. Then he did something that should have been impossible. He matched the shield's frequency. His bioelectric field adjusted, shifting its rhythm to match the energy barrier. It was like tuning a musical instrument, like finding the right radio station. His hand touched the shield, and instead of being pushed back, he became part of it. His fingers passed through, then his hand, then his arm, then his whole body. He stepped through the shield like walking through a waterfall. The young soldier inside had 1 second to feel terror, 1 second to understand that everything he believed about safety was a lie. Then his palm touched his chest. This was the third gift of Project Threshold, the death touch. It was not magic, it was biology. Every living creature runs on electrical signals. The heart beats because of tiny electrical pulses. The brain thinks because of electrical patterns. If you knew exactly where to touch, exactly how much pressure to use, exactly what frequency to disrupt, you could stop those signals instantly. New. The young soldier's heart stopped. His brain went quiet. He fell without a sound, without a mark, without a drop of blood. He simply stopped living. Was already walking to the next shield. Watched in horror. "What are you?" he screamed. "What are you?" Did not answer. He was through the second shield now. Another touch, another silent death. He walked to the third, the fourth, the fifth. The soldiers started to panic. They had never seen anything like this. Their shields, their beautiful, unbreakable shields, were useless. The human walked through them like they were not there, and everyone he touched died. Some soldiers tried to run. Let them go. He was not here to kill everyone. He was here to reach the command center. Every death was a necessity, not a pleasure. He took no joy in killing, but he would not stop either. 10 soldiers down, 20, 30. His troops form a wall, multiple shields together. He cannot pass through all of us. The remaining soldiers grouped together, overlapping their shields. 5 layers of energy, 10 layers, 20. A wall of blue light that seemed solid as steel. Walked toward it. He placed both hands on the first layer. His eyes closed. His breathing slowed even more. His heart beat only 30 times per minute now. His entire body became a tuning fork, vibrating at the exact frequency of the shields. He pushed. Not hard, not fast, gentle, slow, patient. The first layer bent around him. The second layer parted. The third, fourth, fifth. He moved through them like swimming through honey, slow but unstoppable. He emerged on the other side. Stood alone now, his soldiers scattered and dead. His shield was at maximum power, blazing so bright it hurt to look at. "What are you?" whispered again. Looked at him with calm, sad eyes. "I am human," he said. "That is all, just human." His hand passed through his shield. His palm touched the captain's chest, fell. Looked at the command center in the distance. 2 kilometers left, many more soldiers between him and his goal. He started walking again. Behind him, the survivors of his unit were already sending panicked messages to Commander. A human was coming. A human who walked through shields. A human who killed with a touch. And nothing could stop him. The news spread through the army like fire through dry grass. A human was walking across the battlefield. Not running, not hiding, walking. And every soldier who tried to stop him died. Commander stood in the command center, watching the reports come in. His black shell seemed even darker with anger. His 4 fists were clenched so tight that cracks appeared in his own armor. "How many dead?" he demanded. 300 and climbing, Commander, said his aide, a nervous young officer named. "Captain's entire unit is gone. So is Captain's. Captain's unit engaged him 10 minutes ago. We lost contact with them." "Show me the surveillance footage." The screen flickered to life. Watched as a small human figure walked through a line of shields like they were smoke. He watched soldiers fire hundreds of plasma bolts that somehow missed. He watched his warriors fall with single touches. "This is impossible," growled. "The shields cannot be broken. Nothing breaks the shields." "Commander, our scientists are analyzing the footage. They believe the human is somehow matching the shield frequency. He is not breaking through. He is passing through, like a ghost." slammed his fist against the console, cracking the screen. Ghosts are not real. This is a trick, some kind of human technology we have not seen. But even as he said it, felt doubt growing in his stomach. He had studied humans. They were not a species known for advanced technology. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were basic. If they had something that could defeat shields, why had they never used it before? Unless it was not technology, unless it was something else. Send everyone, ordered. Every soldier on the planet, form a ring around the command center. I want 10 layers of shields, 20 layers. I want so many shields that not even light can pass through. Yes, Commander. Hurried away to give orders, stared at the screen, watching the human walk. There was something terrifying about how calm the creature was. He did not rush. He did not panic. He moved like someone taking a morning walk through a garden. 2 kilometers away, felt the army gathering ahead of him. Thousands of energy signatures, all converging on one point. They were preparing their final defense. They were going to throw everything they had at him. Good, he thought. Better to face them all at once than to hunt them down one by one. His body was tired. Matching shield frequencies took enormous concentration and energy. His bioelectric reserves were draining. He had killed over 500 already. Each death took something from him, not just energy but something deeper. He did not enjoy killing. He never had, but he would not stop, not until the mission was done. In orbit above 7, Lieutenant watched the tactical display with growing amazement. She was on the flagship with Admiral, monitoring progress through satellite surveillance. He has eliminated over 500 enemy soldiers in 2 hours, reported. He is now approaching the command center. They are concentrating their forces for a final stand. Admiral shook her head slowly. I have commanded fleets for 20 years. I have seen battles that destroyed planets, but I have never seen anything like this. Project Threshold said quietly. They spent 30 years studying what humans could become, not with machines, not with genetic modification, just training, just pushing the limits of what our bodies can do. And this is the result, one man defeating an army. Captain Park is not just any man, Admiral. He is the best Project Threshold ever produced. 22 years of training. His body has been refined like a sword. His mind has been sharpened like a blade. He can sense things we cannot sense. He can do things we cannot do. Looked at the screen. The small dot representing was approaching a massive cluster of enemy signatures. Thousands of soldiers, all gathered to stop one human. Can he survive this? Asked. Was quiet for a moment. I do not know, she admitted. I hope so. On the surface of 7, stopped walking. Ahead of him stood the final defense. 10,000 soldiers formed a circle around the command center. Their shields overlapped in layer after layer, creating a wall of energy so thick that it glowed like a small sun. Commander himself stood at the front, his own shield blazing with power. His 4 arms held 4 different weapons. His black eyes burned with hatred. Human's voice boomed across the battlefield. You have killed many of my soldiers, but this is where your journey ends. You cannot break through 10,000 shields. You cannot defeat an entire army. Looked at the glowing wall. It was beautiful in a terrible way, so much energy, so much power. They had put everything they had into this defense. He took a deep breath. His heart slowed to 25 beats per minute. His mind became calm and empty. He pushed away all thoughts of fear, doubt, and exhaustion. There was only the task ahead. You are wrong, said quietly. I do not need to defeat an army. I only need to defeat you. He walked forward. They fired, not hundreds of shots this time. Thousands. The air turned blue with plasma bolts. The ground shook with the force of their weapons. It was enough firepower to destroy a small city. Danced. His body moved in ways that seemed impossible. He bent and twisted and flowed like water. Plasma bolts passed through the space where he had been a moment before. He was never where they expected. He was always somewhere else. But the assault was taking its toll. Even could not dodge forever. A bolt grazed his shoulder, burning through his uniform and scorching his skin. Another clipped his leg. Pain exploded through his body, but he did not stop. He could not stop. He reached the first layer of shields. He pushed through. The second layer, the third, each one drained him more. His bioelectric reserves were running low. His body was screaming for rest. But the command center was close now. So close. 10 layers, 20 layers, 30. They watched in horror as the human pushed through their defenses. They fired and fired, but nothing worked. Some soldiers tried to grab him as he passed, but their hands went through him like he was made of smoke. He had become so attuned to energy that solid matter barely affected him anymore. Emerged on the other side of the final layer. Commander stood alone before him, shield blazing at maximum power. It was the strongest personal shield in the army. "You cannot break what cannot be broken," roared. Placed both hands on the shield. He closed his eyes. For a long moment nothing happened. Then heard a sound, a high terrible sound. It was his shield, it was screaming. Was not just matching the frequency anymore. He was disrupting it. He had found the resonance point, the exact vibration that made the energy unstable. His hands were not pushing against the shield. They were making it shake itself apart. Cracks appeared in the blue energy, not from impact, from within. The shield was vibrating so hard that it could not hold its shape. Tried to step back, but it was too late. The shield shattered. Blue energy exploded outward like glass. Stumbled, suddenly exposed, suddenly vulnerable. For the first time in his life, he knew what fear felt like. His palm touched his chest. The death touch was different this time, was so tired, so drained that he could not be gentle. The touch was not precise. It was raw, did not die quietly like the others. His body convulsed once, twice, 3 times. Then he fell. Around them, 10,000 soldiers watched their commander die. They saw his shield, the strongest in their army, shatter like ice. They saw him fall to a single touch from a human hand. And they ran. The army broke. Soldiers threw down their weapons and fled in every direction. Some tried to reach their ships. Some just ran into the wilderness. They who had never known defeat were running from one exhausted human. Stood alone among the broken shields and fallen bodies. His shoulder was burned. His leg was bleeding. His energy was almost gone, but he was still standing. He looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere up there, his people were watching. "The commander is dead," he said, knowing the satellites would carry his words. "The army is broken. 7 is free." Then his legs gave out, and he fell to the ground. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the gray sky of 7, a sky that would remain human. He had done the impossible. He had won. Park woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later. The first thing he saw was a white ceiling. The second thing he saw was Face looking down at him with tears in her eyes. "You stupid, brave fool," she said. "You almost died." Tried to smile, but his face hurt too much. Almost is not the same as actually. The doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. His shoulder had degree burns. His leg had been hit 3 times. His bioelectric system was completely drained. A normal person would have died from exhaustion alone, but was not normal. His body had been trained to survive things that would kill anyone else. For a week he rested, he ate, he slept. He let the doctors put him back together. News came from outside brought by and other visitors. They had surrendered 7 within hours of death. Their fleet had retreated. The blockade was over. 200,000 people would live. But that was not the biggest news. The biggest news was spreading across the entire galaxy. Word of what had done traveled faster than light. Every species in the Galactic Assembly heard the story. A single human soldier had walked through shields. He had killed their commander with his bare hands. He had broken an army that had never been broken before. Some species did not believe it at first. They thought it was human propaganda. Then the footage leaked. Soldiers had recorded everything on their helmet cameras. The galaxy watched as one small human danced through plasma fire. They watched him pass through shields like a ghost. They watched him shatter the unbreakable. Everything changed after that. The Empire sent a message to Earth within a week. They wanted to talk about peace. They wanted to withdraw from 3 other contested systems. They wanted a treaty that would guarantee human safety forever. Admiral called it the greatest victory in human history. Politicians called it the beginning of a new era. Scientists called it proof that human potential had barely been explored. Called it Tuesday. 3 weeks after the battle, a peace ceremony was held at the Galactic Assembly. Every species sent representatives. They sent their highest diplomats, including ambassador. The humans sent admiral, a team of politicians, and one special guest. Did not want to attend. He hated ceremonies. He hated speeches. He hated being looked at, but insisted. "You need to be there," she said. "The galaxy needs to see you." So he went. He wore his dress uniform, which felt strange after weeks of hospital clothes. His shoulder still hurt. His legs still had not fully healed. But he stood straight and walked without limping. He would not show weakness in front of the. The ceremony was held in the great hall of the assembly station. Thousands of creatures from hundreds of species watched as diplomats signed documents and made promises, stood in the back, trying to be invisible. It did not work. After the signing, Ambassador approached the human delegation. His mandibles were not clicking with amusement this time. They were very still, very quiet. "I wish to speak with the one called Park," said. Looked at, he nodded slightly and stepped forward. Studied him for a long moment. The ambassador's black eyes showed something that had never expected to see in a respect and fear. "3 months ago I stood in this very hall," said. "I told your species that you were young and weak. I told you that you did not understand true power. I was wrong." The words hung in the air. Around them, representatives from other species leaned in to listen. Admitting they were wrong was almost as impossible as walking through their shields. "We do not understand," continued. "Your technology is simple. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are basic. How did one human accomplish what entire fleets could not?" Thought about the question. He thought about 22 years of training, about sitting in meditation for hours until his legs went numb, about practicing the same movements 10,000 times until they became part of his soul, about learning to feel energy the way other people feel heat or cold. "Your species is 200 years old in space," said finally. "My species is 200,000 years old on Earth. We have had a long time to study ourselves, a long time to learn what we can become. But this power you have, can it be taught? Can it be?" "It can be taught, but it takes decades of training, a specific mindset, complete dedication." Paused. "I am the best that Project Threshold ever produced. There are others, but none as strong. This is not something you can mass produce. It is not a weapon you can build in a factory." Was silent for a moment. "So there are more of you, more humans who can do what you do." "A few, not many, and honestly," allowed himself a small smile. "I hope there never need to be more. I hope this treaty means peace, real peace." "As do I," said. He extended one of his 4 arms, a gesture of respect among the. "You have given my people something valuable, human. You have given us humility. We have not felt that in 200 years. Perhaps it is time we learned." Took the offered arm and shook it. Around them, the watching species murmured in amazement. A human and a shaking hands like equals. Later that night, after the ceremony was over, stood at a window looking out at the stars. Found him there, alone and quiet as always. "They are calling you a hero," she said. "Every news channel in the galaxy is talking about you. They are calling this the day humanity proved itself." "I am not a hero," said. "I am just a soldier who did his job." "You saved 200,000 people. You ended a war before it could really begin. You changed how every species in the galaxy sees humanity. That sounds pretty heroic to me." Was quiet for a moment. He thought about the soldiers he had killed. Over 1,000 had died by his hand. They had families somewhere, children who would never see their parents again. He had done what was necessary, but he would carry those deaths forever. "Heroism is not about glory," he said finally. "It is about sacrifice, about doing what must be done even when it costs you something. I do not feel like celebrating. I feel tired and sad and grateful that it is over." Stood beside him, looking at the same stars. "What will you do now?" "Rest, heal, train," he paused, "and hope that I never have to do this again. Hope that this peace lasts. And if it does not, if another threat comes." Turned to look at her. His eyes were calm and steady like deep water. "Then I will be ready. That is all any of us can do, be ready." Far across the galaxy, on worlds that humanity had never seen, other species were having conversations of their own. They had all watched the footage. They had all seen the human walk through unbreakable shields. They had all seen the mighty humbled by a single soldier. The conversations were all different, but they all reached the same conclusion. Humanity was small. Humanity was young. Humanity had simple ships and basic weapons. But humanity had something else, something that could not be measured in firepower or technology, something that had been building for 200,000 years on a small blue planet. Humanity had potential. And in the cold equations of interstellar power, that potential had just become the most valuable thing in the galaxy. On the assembly station, finished looking at the stars, he turned away from the window and walked back toward his quarters. His shoulder still hurt, his legs still ached, but he was alive. His people were safe. The future was uncertain but hopeful. Behind him, smiled and followed. The galaxy had changed forever. And it had started with one man who learned to walk through walls.